Okay, I'd like to take a few minutes for what I'll call an institutional gut check regarding the 4Cs. So just imagine there's some internal church issue out there, and a church leadership asks a conference representative to come in and help. And the conference representative gives an initial statement saying, hey, take this action. We'll call it action A. And then church leadership further asks the conference representative to convene a task force that has a few different characteristics. One, it's typically used for a particular purpose, but we're going to use it for another purpose here. And then two, it's typically comprised of a certain diversity of people, but then it's actually, this one is not going to be comprised of that diversity of people. And that task force is going to assess, hey, there's action A, but there's actions B, C, D, E, plenty of different, there's a suite of actions that leadership could take and just to assess the state of the church. So this task force, after a few days and a few weeks of deliberation, makes a decision. Then, within a few months, the congregation votes against that decision in a formal business meeting, and actually even affirming the opposite of that conclusion, the conclusion reached by that task force. So then the task force, this very same task force with largely the same membership and the same leader, reconvenes and affirms its decision. So that, that would often be the end of it, right? And I actually, that's possibly okay. But then here's where, and there are some problems with what I just said, but that's possibly fine. Then it gets kind of weird, okay? So then the head of the task force, that same conference rep from the beginning, representative from the beginning, and the head of the committee that oversees this task force start investigating everybody who has some sort of formal standing with the 4Cs as a minister or a student under conference care for potential violations of the Code of Ethics for Ministers, simply for expressing concerns regarding this matter or concerns regarding the processes that were used for this matter in handling this matter, the church issue mentioned at the beginning. As a result of this, this action taken that's kind of unusual, there was a letter of concern sent to conference leadership that was referred back to the very same committee that not only has this person conducting the process, but also has the original conference rep and the head of the task force sitting on the committee. And by the way, the two people there, those two people actually happen to be almost neighbors in churches down the street. So, okay, so obviously, of course, governance issues dictate that it's probably best to have somebody else look into the matter. But actually, no, it's referred back to the very same committee alleged to be conducting things improperly. And lo and behold, that committee found that there was no wrongdoing. Then formal charges are brought forth by somebody who spent time, significant time, digging into this matter, and levied very specific charges, none of which were addressed. And the only response was there was a proper investigation. By the way, paraphrased, I'm not quoting this. But it was essentially proper investigation. The charges are not justified. This file is closed and the matter is concluded. By the way, please remove your videos. and again, the very same committee arrived at that conclusion. So here's the punchline, okay? I don't think this is a secret. I don't think that process is acceptable. I'm not willing to be shepherded by people who think that process is acceptable. And so if the people who shepherd this conference at the very highest level think that that kind of process is acceptable and are willing to detail out the what I would call governance issues, but that you may call the normal course of doing business for our conference. If you're able to, if you think that what I said is correct and you detail it out somewhat similarly to how I said it in writing and say, we believe this is acceptable and this is how we do business in the 4 Cs, I will absolutely, I'll immediately respond and leave as soon as I see the email, probably after the semester is done. At that point, it's Nehemiah style. I have a good work. I cannot come down. Let's not interact. But I'm assuming that either there are, we clearly probably see facts differently. I'm assuming that that's not the case. And so then I would request and that you please point out where I mischaracterized how the process went. Or if there are if you agree that there are process abnormalities, but they were necessary because of extenuating circumstances in this particular case, or, Grant, there's this particular fact that we can't give you the details, but I assure you, it's related to something like this. And, if you're able to ideally produce evidence or give a fact or make a specific claim, any sort of specific claim regarding, where I'm wrong in how I'm detailing this, then I'm happy to issue some sort of correction where I've been wrong. And that actually goes for any of my videos or anything I've said or anything I've written. Happy to issue a correction. And I would actually want to issue corrections regarding my formal charges, but I'm not able to because there was no detail given. There was nothing addressed. And actually, I charged 4 people and a group of people, and actually only 2 people were cleared by this very amorphous statement. So I would be a bit troubled if we considered the matter concluded at this stage with this level of detail. And I don't consider it concluded until it's either clear that, hey, this is the fact that Grant is missing, and this is the fact that hundreds of people are missing that makes this all okay, or this is a leadership that I clearly do not agree with their fundamental principles of what justice is. And those are some great ways to resolve this in terms of the frictions that we've been experiencing. So anyway, I went far longer than I thought, but I hope that we're able to, get to a place where the matter is actually concluded, because I would love that more than almost anybody who's watching this, I'm sure. And I think there is a little bit more to say beyond institutionally. So I mentioned the next video will have a little bit more of a personal spin, individual spin, and so we'll step into that next. Appreciate your time.